Have you ever found yourself wondering, why is it that some habits that I look to bring into my life actually stick and become easier as I'm attempting to bring them into my life, and some don't stick so well? I recently heard a question be asked, which was, what's actually happening at the level of the brain when we're looking to bring in this habit and it actually starts to get easier and easier and easier to do the habit? And so I'm going to walk you through the step by step process of what's actually playing out in the brain. And this isn't just to understand and create more cognition about the process, but in understanding it, it will actually amplify your capacity to bring on habits that are more useful for you with a whole heap more ease. And so, if I haven't met you before, my name's Dan, and I work with high performing leaders and founders in restoring and recalibrating their baseline, their nervous system through deep dive retreats and one to one work. Okay, so you're there. It's 2026 or whatever year it may be as you're watching this, and the new year's just ticked over, and you're looking to bring in a whole heap of habits. Maybe there's too many, or maybe you're just focusing on one or two. Yeah. And as you're bringing those in, you start to notice that, oof, there's a bit of a challenge. There's a stickiness in bringing this habit in. And it might be, going to bed a certain time, eating a new diet, exercising more or less, or whatever it might be for you. Yeah. And so that challenge versus how difficult that challenge feels 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks later has a very specific neurological process that's playing out at the level of the brain. And once you know this, it actually amplifies your capacity to bring in habits with way more ease. And so when we're starting off with new habits, it's really important to know that when we're choosing this new habit, we're no longer choosing the well trodden path. We're no longer choosing the habit that we were so used to doing. Yeah. So you're always deciding on one or the other. And so if we get a microscope and really zoom in to the brain, yeah, and at the level of the brain, you've got neurons that communicate with one another. So you'll have the neuron here with the axonal head, and then that connects with another neuron, yeah, with these finger-like structures, which are called dendrites. Yeah. So a really well-worn-in habit is well established. Yeah, you've got all the dendrites on there, super, super, super solid. You've been making the decision and actioning this action again and again and again and again and again. And this is rock solid. Then the new year comes and you start to look to bring in a new habit. Yeah, you're going to start exercising every single day more frequently rather than choosing to sit around and do something else. And so all of a sudden, there's a new communication that needs to happen. There's new messaging that needs to happen at the level of the brain because it's not this one anymore. And so these, all of a sudden, these dendrites need to find the new connection that is actually communicating, deciding to do the new habit and actioning it. Yeah. Let's just say it's meditation and you want to sit down and do 3 minutes worth of meditation. As you start to bring that habit in and you decide to do that, yes, I'm going to meditate today, then you need to sit down and do it. And as you do, as you combine those two things, and I'll explain why that's important, deciding and then actually actioning, when you do that, these dendrites, they don't all come off at once onto this new communication line, yeah, onto this new habit. They do so bit by bit because they're not quite sure yet as to whether this is the way. Yeah, and the mind has its way. So you get one or two dendrites coming off and latching onto this new habit. This is the reason why it feels weak early on, because there's only one or two dendrites and the rest are still formed on the old habit. So that's why we feel this natural draw, and it's almost quite easy to go back to our default because we've got all the other dendrites, tentacles that are still attached on the other habit. And so what's necessary is to be consistent with repetition. It's also not so important to need to do the full amount that you've committed to. That would be great. However, something is better than nothing. Yeah, rather than all or nothing. And this is a thought pattern that I see that is super prevalent in the clients that I work with, leaders and founders. All in, all or nothing. Super useful in moments, but we also need to have access to something rather than nothing. Now, why does something rather than nothing actually work? Well, when you decide, cool, I'm going to meditate, and you don't action it, we haven't had a dendrite lift off onto the new habit. What gets the dendrite and the new neural connection happening when you make the decision, yes, I'm going to do it, and you action it? Now, let's just say I set 15 minutes out for myself to sit every day, but I've got a really tight day, or the kids have come running in, or whatever it might be. Rather than saying, oh, I can't fit the 15 minutes in, yes, I'm going to meditate today. And you sit down and you do it for 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 3 minutes, whatever you can in that morning, in that evening. And because you've made the decision and then you've actioned it, you've actually had liftoff with these tentacles, with these dendrites, again, onto this new connection, strengthening it. Then the next day, rather than having today decided on this action, you still decided on the new habit. The next day, it's going to be easy to jump back on the horse and do the full 15, or to do that in 2 or 3 days' time. So there's some research that came out of the College of London around habit development. And to really properly establish habits, whilst we may have heard of 21 days, 28 days, 4 weeks, and so on, that kind of gets the ball rolling. And it really is contextual and based on what the actual habit is and how long you've been doing the one that you're looking to change, of course. However, generally speaking, it's 66 days where you're looking at 10 weeks of consistently showing up with a particular habit on a day-to-day basis and making the decision and actioning it. There's some good pieces that came out in this research that some good news, essentially. So more often than not, if people fall off of the horse when they're trying to pick up a habit and they've missed a day or 2 or 3, then they kind of consider this to be something that they've once tried, but it just didn't work for them, and that there's no point because they've lost it by falling off the horse and breaking the streak. Now, this isn't true. So because of the neurophysiology that's been established at the level of the brain, if you don't do it for one day or don't do it for another day, or you do it for a reduced amount of time, all the work that's been done is still there, particularly if you've spent a few days already doing that. Yeah. So the new habit is still there. It might be weak, but it's still there. So what you can do is, rather than not jumping on at all and just letting it go, if it's been 2 or 3 days, jump back on the horse as soon as you can. And when you do, you allow these dendrites to continue on, completely removing themselves from the old habit and onto this new habit here. This is why there's a process, and this was my own personal process of when I started to learn meditation and how to play the guitar. It was just one song on guitar, and I can only still play just one song on guitar, but I played it pretty well. It was Georgia by Vance Joy, if anyone's interested. So I was learning these two things, learning how to meditate and learning how to play this one song on guitar. Had to do 15 minutes of each. Yeah. And I was using this process by Jerry Seinfeld, comedian. And he was asked in a podcast, how is it that your comedy has managed to be so consistently successful for such a long period of time, 10 years plus, maybe even longer? And he attributed most, if not all, of his success to this one process, which was putting an annual calendar on the wall from day 1 of the year to day 365 of the year, onto the wall. He decided to do one thing daily that he committed to, and that was to spend 1 hour writing a joke. Whether it was good or not didn't matter. Whether he was motivated or not didn't matter. He just had to spend that 1 hour doing that. If he did, he'd put a cross through that day. And the aim of the game was to get as long a streak possible. And what this did was it actually reversed and flipped the human psyche. So rather than getting to 6 out of 7 days in the week and being like, oh, I've done so well, I'll just let the seventh day be and rest as God and Jesus did, right? Instead, I'm not religious. And so instead, you get to day 6, you look at day 7, and the motivation amplifies. It's like, let's continue this streak. And with every cross, the value of that cross grows exponentially. So I was there 93 days in, having meditated and practiced guitar on a day-to-day basis for 93 days. I was at the beach for the whole day. I got back. It's a Saturday. It's 8 p.m. This was in my early 20s, 8 p.m. And I had a party to go to. And I thought, I'll do the meditation tomorrow. I'll play the guitar tomorrow. And I looked at the wall and I saw 93 days. And all of a sudden, I was giving up 93 days, not just one practice session. And so what I did is I made the decision to meditate. I made the decision to play the guitar. And then I embodied that. I actioned that and I sat down and meditated for 15 minutes? No, for 3 minutes. Did I play guitar for 15? No, I played for 3 minutes. What that meant was I still allowed for that connection to occur again. The choice I made today was not a different one to the habit I'd been trying to form. And so I strengthened that, and it made it so much easier the next day to just jump back on the horse with the original plan that I was doing. But even if I was to not do something on that particular day, and maybe the next day, but then jump back on the horse, all is not lost. And picking back up, you're not starting from scratch. And that's the important piece. Something rather than nothing is so, so powerful. And then continue to build what you're doing. And if there's small windows of moments where you do less than what you normally would, that's okay. And then pick it back up. Yeah, I think this is really important, particularly with people with children and families and so on. It's still possible. It absolutely is, but it's not if you think that you need to do it to perfection. Yeah, and that's not necessary. And this comes from a recovering perfectionist. So, work in progress. So, go off, have a think about what can you apply this to, and let me know how you go. Together in deep work, rest, and play. See you soon.